Greetings and welcome to this presentation video. My name is Russell and I am the overseer of the Grace Private Society, and I'm going to share with you our intentions to initiate the Project Grace Media. And before I present to you the aims and objectives of this project and how Grace Media will be a planetary force of factual and fair media that is designed to enlighten and evolve the living beings of this earth, I would like to first preface those aims and objectives of our project by outlining to you our motivations and reasons for creating Grace Media. First and foremost, we are living in an unprecedented era of information. We are living in times of information overload. What's more is that we are living in a culture of contradictive information. Contradictive because there is always two opposing sides of a story or subject that both proclaim to have the truth and the facts of a matter. And so with today's media, it has become very difficult to know who or what to believe, difficult to sense and discern the absolute truth of anything. And it is easy to be conflicted and confused. In fact, so much truth has been lost and obscured within the white noise of all that conflicting and confusing information that we as a culture are drowning in nonsense whilst gasping for wisdom. Wisdom is the breath of a righteous life. Wisdom is the knowing of how to safely navigate this world, and that you know how to avoid that which is wrong and harmful, and you know how to do that which is right and helpful. The latter being the basis of a more prosperous and healthier life. And wisdom is grounded in the truth of knowing the difference between wrong and right. The wisdom of knowing between wrong and right is something we each learn from experience. It is an experience that takes place because we have acted upon information received. And it is during and after the experience of acting upon certain information that we figure out if that information was wrong or right, in part or in whole. Therefore, our ability to grow in wisdom and live a righteous and good life where we are blessed with fortune and greatness greatly depends upon the information that is received and acted upon. Whether or not we have the wrong information that gets bad results, or we have the right information that gets good results. The right information is factual and grounded in truth. The simple and straightforward truth, however, has been lost within the realms of a corrupted media. We are all drowning within the murky waters of disinformation, misinformation, omission, speculation, conjecture, falsehoods, fabrications, spin, myths, untruths, mistruths, half-truths, half-errors, outright lies, and all the rest of it. In fact, the media has become so contaminated with information that is not grounded in facts and truth that much of the information just cannot be taken as gospel. And the media is so convoluted and corrupted with information that we have now reached the depths of deception. As a collective, We are knowingly and unknowingly sharing corrupted information, and in doing so, in sharing information that is not 100% affirmed as factual and truthful, we are deceiving each other. Deception is the absence of truth. Deception is when the truth has been obfuscated. Because information shapes our perception, when we consume and accept information that is not factual and truthful, our perception becomes a deception, where in absence of the absolute truth, we have received deceptive information, and therefore we are partly or wholly deceived. We have formed a deceived perception. When deceived, we have been deluded into believing something is true when it is false, and believing something is false when it is true. And I wonder how many times in your life you were so certain that you knew the truth of something or someone, only to find out down the line, and most likely where you experienced a lot of pain, that in fact you was completely wrong. The truth was the complete opposite of what you thought it was. And that's because you were acting on the wrong information from the start. Now I want you to imagine an entire culture of people that are acting on the wrong information. Imagine how much wrongdoing, affliction, and suffering that culture would experience. And because of a corrupted media, we do live in cultures of widespread deception and delusion. And when living within a culture of mass deception and delusion, when you are part of that deception and delusion, you actually believe that your culture is doing things the right way. You see everybody else doing the same thing and think it must be the right way, even though everybody is acting upon information that is deceptive. Everybody has been deceived into thinking this is the right way. And yet we do live in cultures of mass affliction and hardship. The problem is that when we are immersed within a culture of traditions and beliefs, and we are being exposed to the same information over and over again, we cannot see the wood for the trees. And because we are exposed to so much false and erroneous media, as a culture, we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. We keep repeating the same afflictions. Collectively, we keep walking around and around in circles of a revolving culture that keeps making the mistakes of getting it wrong. Getting it wrong because we have wrong information. And these mistakes that I speak of, are political, economic, relational, financial, social, psychological, physical, spiritual, and all of that, which causes great pain and suffering to us as individuals and collectively each time that we get it wrong. And we have become so deeply traumatized as a culture. The trauma of getting it wrong and doing bad that ends in painful mistakes has been going on from generation to generation. And we do what the generation before us did, as we feel the effects of the traumas that we experience from the generations before us, because we are all passing down, passing along, and acting upon the same wrong and bad information. And yet we are so immersed within a culture of affliction and trauma. that we have grown up within these awful conditions, and so we think nothing of it. We have become so familiarized and normalized to our cultural affliction that we just don't know how traumatized we actually are. The cultural trauma is resolved when we face our cultural karma. Facing the karma is to make right the wrongs in our own life experience and then go out into the world with righteous intentions so that we can individually and collectively absolve to a place of balance, unity, and peace. We never learn because we have become accustomed to, accepting of, and totally identified with our traumas as a normal way of life, as who we are and how things are, and that's how things will always be. And this is true because unless we change who we are inside, we will always see life this same way. We will always project our negative experiences outwards. And the reality out there will reflect back to us more negative experiences. And because we live in a culture of corrupted media, there is no shortage of negative information. In fact, there is a disproportionately large amount of negative information in our media that will continue to feed and reinforce our afflictions, where our collective cultural trauma is feeding on itself within this negative feedback loop that is being reinforced by our trauma-inducing media. And I will soon get to exactly how that comes about. But for now, what is evident for those with eyes to see is that we are circling deeper and deeper into the mire of a cultural nescience. Nescience means that we lack the foresight of knowledge and wisdom, and because of that, our cultures keep making the same mistakes. And we remain ignorant and traumatized because we lack honest and truthful media. And to understand how we lack honest and truthful media, we need to observe the different media sources that inform us about the world that we live in. And when we do, we will come to see how much of an ill-informed culture we really are. And given that mainstream media is what informs the main consensus of our culture, then it makes sense that we should start there. Because the majority of people within a culture are being informed about their culture by watching and listening to the mainstream news channels. And as of recent years, these mainstream news channels have developed a proclivity towards negative news reporting. We are talking about news reports that depict the worst aspects of human life and reality. News reports that are, for the most part, scandalous, terrorizing, horrific, controversial, conflicting, and disturbing. These mainstream news channels, they take isolated and small events and then magnify them through our screens and distort these isolated and small events as being generalized and pervasive problems throughout society when they are not. These mainstream news channels also report on events that occur in far away lands that have no real bearing or relevance to the lives that we live here and now in our local environments. Furthermore, the mainstream news reporters are not investigative journalists. They are professional script readers. They report the news from a well-crafted and censored script that has a subjective bias that is designed to convey a specific narrative and perception of events. We are not given the holistic and objective facts of an event. We are informed with limited and partial information for the purpose of them making us believe in a certain viewpoint. In other words, they manipulate and deceive our perception. For those of us who are acutely aware of how deceptive news media works, we have become familiar with the term fake news, which is a phrase that is given to news broadcasters that obfuscate, omit, embellish, and distort the truthfulness of the events and subjects they are reporting on, where they are spinning the narrative to suit their agenda. In other words, they manufacture a story that is crafted to influence us to think a certain way and then act towards a specific outcome. Because, like I said, we act upon information that is received. When we observe the content of mainstream news channels, the desired outcome they are manufacturing is obvious to see. They constantly project the bad news of economic uncertainty, cultural disputes, political upheavals, human disasters, terrorist attacks, wars, and everything else that depicts us humans in a bad, evil, and negative way. And when we consume this news, this negative information, we get upset, angered, and disgusted by what we see. Our own internal traumas are being triggered and reinforced. And all of those bad experiences that we've had with other people that caused us great pain and suffering is being relived. This is why people shout at their TV screens when they get upset at what they are witnessing. And so when the news is depicting negative information about others, this makes us conflict with and polarized against other human beings. And we become distrustful, separated, and alienated from them. So again, it is obvious to see that the information that is being projected from the mainstream news channels is information that conflicts and divides the minds of a culture. The mainstream news channels give an imbalanced, disproportionate, dispassionate, and unbefitting representation of reality. We are being traumatized, demoralized, shocked, and agitated by the information that the mainstream news pumps into our minds. And all of this is by design. It is of no coincidence that the mainstream news channels on a daily basis keep repeating the same cultural travesties over and over again in their shock and awe reporting campaigns. They are keeping us traumatized by each other and divided from each other as a culture. But we can't stop watching the news. We have become hooked on the emotional upset and rage and fear that we feel when we see the hardships, conflict, and divisiveness on the news. These mainstream news channels are purveyors of doom and gloom, and we aid and abet these outlets because we give them the attention and energy that they desire. Just like fools we play right into their agenda. And in response to the malpractices of the mainstream news channels, there has been a rising surge in alternative news channels that offer investigative and truthful journalism, which is a good thing. However, because the truth is not welcome in the arena of deceptive media, many alternative news channels are being censored and deplatformed, and thus a large swath of enlightening content just is not available to us. Furthermore, many of these alternative news channels are out there to expose the deceptions and lies within our culture, and this means that they are taking an opposing and offensive and interrogative stance towards individuals and organizations. And sadly, this does promote more conflict and division. These alternative news channels can also take you down the endless rabbit holes of theory, conjecture, and speculation, where there is no grounding in the facts of reality. We are culturally grounded within a Groundhog Day, a Groundhog Day of where a bad history keeps on repeating, because we are collectively hooked on the repetition of our social media feeds. Social media has become the main place of where we source our information. However, social media is a reflective social mirror. Most people are caught within a two-way social mirror of projecting and reflecting back the same content that has been repackaged, perhaps with a different slant and style. Most people don't and can't evolve beyond the consensus of their social media because they can't see beyond their own reflection, and they can't transcend what's being mirrored back to them by others. The only way to transcend the consensus of social media is to stop looking into the mirror and believing in what you see. Then we must consider the commercial aspect of media. The commercialization of media means that we always get a repeat of the media that sells best. However, what sells best is not necessarily the best information that will see us right. Media in all of its formats, from TV to social media, books, films, documentaries, etc., is valued more for its commercial viability than its creative integrity. Commercial viability is whether or not media will market and sell well. Commercial viability is subject to what a culture wants and buys. And for the most part, we do have cultures that have been seduced and entrained to be entertained by shock, fantasy, fiction, drama, money, sex, scandal, materialism, and all of the superficial and trivial stuff that makes people feel good. And so this is the most prevailing media because of its commercial viability. Where to generate income and stay in business, most media companies must push what sells. They mostly push what a culture wants and not what a culture needs. What people want is not typically what they need nor what's best for them. And our cultures need proper education more than it needs entertainment. What we need is a culture that is well informed with absolute truth and wisdom. We need an enlightened culture that grows and develops and evolves to much greater heights. A culture that acts upon good information that gets good results. And it is from both the spoken and written word that we are informed about the reality that we live in, and subsequently we behave in accordance with the information that we have been informed with. And consistent and widespread repetition of the same information is how you get an entire culture informed to agree upon a consensus. The consensus of a culture is when everybody gets into the formation of a collective thought process, value, and belief system, both of which then become a collective behavioral pattern, where the collective manifests the world that they live in. The world that we have created and live in, the structures and systems and customs of our cultures, they have resulted from us projecting outwards our values and beliefs in how we think our world should be constructed and operate. And those values and beliefs have come from information received, where we have been informed by the spoken and written word, where the word creates the world that we live in. And it is of by no coincidence that word and world are spelt and sound similar. And entire cultures are a mass formation of people that have resulted from the information that they have collectively adopted and acted upon as truth. And why do we come together in a mass cultural formation? Why do we agree with and go along with the culture? That's because most people have become mind programmed by their culture to be outside in people. Outside in people that mirror the same values and beliefs and behaviors of their culture. From an early age, we have all been taught to look outside of ourselves for the answers and to accept and obey what we have been informed to believe in. All of our lives, we have been socially conditioned to accept and agree with the teachers, parents, friends, authoritative figures, and the corporate media of our cultures. Our culture has been informing us what to think, who to be, what to do, how to behave, how to live, what to buy, who to idolize, and who to vote for. We have all learned to conform to the social norms. We are in this mass formation of a cultural hypnosis, hypnotized to think and behave a certain way, where the collective perspective equals the collective behavior, customs, and attitude of an entire culture. We are all in a spellbind of going along with what everybody else thinks and does, just because everybody else is doing it. Even though just because everybody else does it, that does not automatically make it good or right, especially when people are acting upon wrong information. Of course, the cultural hypnosis of a mass consensus is being reinforced because we are lost within the two-way mirror of a media that is projecting and reflecting back the same reality. We are passively allowing ourselves to be reinforced by the hypnosis. The media is programming our minds with the information that we consume on those TV programs and on the television, and of course, what we download from the screens of our digital laptops and phones. These devices, they are all conditioning the psychological form of our minds and doing so through the medium of hypnosis. That's because when consuming media, the mind falls into a gentle hypnosis. During hypnosis, the unconscious part of the mind is unguarded, wide open, and highly suggestible to subliminal messages and images. Subliminal means that information is being received below the threshold of sensation and consciousness, where the mind is being affected by the content that one consumes and without one being aware of it. And whatever media we are repeatedly consuming, this media is forming and reinforcing our psychology. We therefore need to stand guard of our minds and be more discerning of the information that we allow and accept into our conscious awareness, especially being more able to discern fiction from fact, because fiction is a deception that leads to delusion, whereas the fact is truthfulness that leads to wisdom. Most people, however, will listen to authority figures, celebrities, movie stars, and news anchors and automatically accept their claims and narratives as being right and truthful without verifying the facts of what they espouse. But I must ask, are these people that I've just mentioned, are they not susceptible to the errors of judgment, erroneous information, deception, and lies? One thing is for certain: the status of a person is not a marker for truth and integrity. We must be more active in proving or disproving the information that we consume. We must verify information to make sure it is factual and truthful, because to accept information without verified proof is to be susceptible to accepting wrong information as being right, accepting wrong information as the truth, or indeed accepting incomplete or inaccurate information as the truth, is how we form limiting and false beliefs. Limiting and false beliefs lead to an error of judgment, whereby we think and behave in a way that does not align with the facts of reality, and this results in a mistake and the subsequent pains of misfortune. Because our media is riddled with limited and false information, we have a culture of ill-informed people that make mistakes more often than not. And that leads to consequences that diminish the quality of their life, diminishes their health, finances, and ability to function properly. And therefore, in a culture of limited and false information, we just can't accept information at face value. It is best that we question and investigate information to prove or disprove it. It is best to ascertain if the information is right, factual, and truthful, because without verified proof, we don't have knowledge. Without verified proof, we can only form a belief. And here is where we need to make a clear distinction between knowledge and beliefs. Knowledge is to have the first-hand experience and verified proof of the original source of something, where you know it to be absolutely correct and therefore it is indisputable. In absence of verified proof, all we can do is form a belief that something is true, which is a degree of certainty, hope, or faith that that something is correct, because beliefs can be correct or incorrect, and therefore they are disputable. And I will give you a very simple example of that. We all know there is a yellow glowing entity in the sky that we call the sun. We know it gives life. We know it brings warmth. This is a knowledge that we all know and agree upon. However, science will tell us that the sun is 90 billion light years away and the sun is made of hydrogen. And because you and I cannot verify that, we can only believe in that information that we are being told is true. We cannot assume that that is a fact. We can only form a belief that it is true, but it could possibly be false. And we do live in a culture where the simple and straightforward truth is being manipulated and distorted and embellished, where people in a culture are accepting information at face value as being correct, right, factual, or truthful. Accepting information about science or anything else where they accept the information as truth because they are told it is the truth, and so they must believe it. And then people indulge with hearsay, read-say, and watch-say, where they repeat the same information to others that they've heard, read, and watched. And they repeat it as if they have witnessed the truth, even though it hasn't been proven and verified as the truth. And this repetition of repeating things that haven't been verified is how we end up with a culture that has a collective mindset of belief systems that could be correct or incorrect. We don't have a collective mindset that is grounded and unified in actual factual knowledge that is correct. Nothing can be truly knowable without verified proof. Nothing is verified as proof when consuming media without question. But sadly, a great deal of people are accepting media as the truth without a second thought, while still they are consuming junk media. Junk media is the trivial content that people enjoy for its entertainment value, but the content has zilch practical use in the real world, in that the media makes you feel good, but gives you nothing in which to self-develop and cultivate real life of real substance. And with the advance of handheld technology, it is painfully obvious to see that most people are clambering deep into the addictive thralls of consuming junk social media, overloading their minds with a sporadic mayhem of unrelated and diverse information and brainwashing themselves into a fickle state of mind, into a repetitive mindset that makes a repetitive lifestyle. And numerous scientific studies have revealed that to consistently consume short bursts of electronic data will erode the attention span and cause the inability to sustain a consistent train of thought, nor commit to something with single-minded focus, where the mind is divided and compromised, where mixed input then results in mixed output. The minds of people have been hijacked by digital technology. We do have a culture of people that now heavily rely upon their digital device for every aspect of their life. Most people are totally dependent on the applications of their device to organize, socialize, communalize, and commercialize their entire life, where both social and business relationships are now conducted mostly online. Most people have unknowingly outsourced the power of their mind to the software of their digital device. The digital device has become this surrogate mind space that has diminished our ability to think freely or to imagine differently than the information that we are continually downloading to the world that is being presented to us on the digital device. We have morphed into a culture of hyper addictive info junkies that rely upon the usual dose of information to pacify the cravings of a neurotic mind. We even enable our children to foster digital addictions. A recent nationwide study conducted by Ofsted, the UK's Office for Standards in Education for Children's Services and Skills, they reported that young children between the ages of 5 to 8 spend between 4 to 6 hours per day on their digital devices. If we take the lower figure of 4 hours per day over a lifetime, this equates to a human spending 14 years of their life transfixed upon an artificial reality on a digital screen, rather than enjoy real life. And there is no escaping our digital devices. Human neurology is now interconnected with and dependent upon the technology that we use. Devices have become this existential element of the human experience, and to the point that we have become cyborgs, where to be without your digital device, even just for a moment, can almost feel like a body part is missing. Humans integrating with digital technology is a sci-fi dystopia. We already know that the human experience is less human and more cyborg-like. When augmented with technology, people become more drone-like, addicted, delusional, and disconnected from reality. People have become disconnected from their humanity because they have developed a digital identity syndrome, where people have become administrative slaves to an online digital identity. People seem to be more involved with developing the image of their online identity than they are developing the character, knowledge, and skills of their real self in the real world, which are the only qualities that will lead to a life of success and happiness. Furthermore, people seem to prefer to live in a virtual reality than actual reality, where they are spending more time in this artificial reproduction of reality than experiencing the real thing. Spending more time with online communications than time spent offline to enjoy real life social interactions. People are becoming more connected digitally, but less connected in reality. Most people have their minds fixated on a digital reality that is much more appealing, convenient, and stimulating than the actual reality that they live in, where the digital device has become a way to get some pleasurable escapism from psychological and lifestyle issues, where people get alleviation from a life that is perhaps lackluster, boring, stressful, and problem orientated, where the digital device now pacifies and soothes the minds of those who are incapable of being alone, with a mind that is incapable of being aroused without its digital surrogate, a mind that is locked into a maelstrom of media a mind that can't be without its eroticism. And we are all alone with our digital devices. These digital devices have become tools of separation that allow us to isolate away from others because the digital devices have hijacked our minds. And all of the aforementioned is by design. Our digital devices are designed to be addictive. The business owners of these media platforms, through trial and testing research, they know exactly how human psychology works. They know what type of media attracts our attentions and keeps us hooked. They manipulate our emotions with fear-based and reward-based triggers because they know humans are hardwired towards negative and positive validation. They know that we experience a feel-good dopamine feedback cycle from these digital devices and social media platforms. A feel-good cycle that keeps us coming back for more. And these media platforms, they don't care about us. They place audience captivation and advert revenue before our mental health concerns. In fact, their addictive devices that are overloaded with corrupted information are exasperating our mental health issues. The digital device is a Trojan horse, a wonderful technological gift that disguises within it these psychologically controlling and oppressive features that have the power to captivate and imprison our minds into their false reality. And make no mistake, most of what we see on those digital screens is false because it is fabricated and not entirely truthful. And so, to summarize this preamble, we do live in a culture of mass affliction where bad history keeps repeating because we lack the knowledge and wisdom to grow and evolve. Our minds have become convoluted, compromised, and agitated because we are exposed to contradictive and conflicting information. We are being fooled with deception and delusion, where bad appears good and good appears bad, where wrong is portrayed as right and right is portrayed as wrong, where theories are now believed as fact, where fiction is more prevalent than truth, and truth is stranger than fiction. We have become a culture of misinformed, ill-informed, and over-informed people, where the media has hypnotized us all into this mass formation of psychosis and neurosis. Informing to the consensus, we have become a culture of revolvers and not evolvers. We don't develop and evolve who we are and what we know. We instead remain as we are with the same thinking and behaviors that produces the same results. Thus, we collectively keep repeating a bad history, generation after generation. What we need is to take our finger off the repeat button and delete our attachments to the current media that we are plugged into. We need to stop drowning in all of this media and to surface and to take a breather and then to look around so that we can truly establish where we are, establish what's been going wrong so that we can start to move in the right direction, in a better direction, where we start acting in accordance with truth so that we can start to live a more simple, peaceful, and prosperous life. And so now we have arrived at the part of this presentation where I will share with you the Grace Society intentions to gift this world with a new media that transforms the way that we think and the way that we live for the betterment of every man, woman, son and daughter. And so I, acting as the overseer of the Grace Private Society, from herein do formally announce and clarify our goodwill and intent to create Grace Media, a media enterprise that stands for intelligence, truth, unity and integrity, and does so to breathe wisdom and goodness into our cultures. I declare that the Grace Media will provide a safe, open and responsible forum of media that encourages healthy debate on cultural affairs, that we will provide truthful, correct, right and factual information that is backed with verifiable proof, a media that is not deceptive and not misleading. Our aim is to provide information that will transcend false and limiting beliefs and exalt the truth and expansion of knowledge, so that we become a well-informed culture that has healed, grown, evolved, united and harmonized, so that we can become a culture of noble, peaceful and prosperous beings. I do hereby assert that Grace Media will function as a planetary force of positive change that provides fair and factual media, that provides transparent, balanced, coherent and comprehensive information to ensure that our cultures are well informed with holistic accounts, objective facts, opposing viewpoints, accuracy, thoroughness and truthfulness. Grace Media will stimulate our minds, warm our hearts and invigorate our souls with information that truly matters, where the subjects of nutrition, health, wealth and sovereignty will be our main focal points, and for the purpose of raising the standards of life for each and every living being on earth. And so now I will outline some of the main initiatives that fulfill our aims and objectives. We start with the Grace Media Publishing House. Our publishing house is a co-creative alliance of altruistic beings that seek positive reformation in the world. We will produce and publish the creative works of authors, presenters, researchers, film and documentary makers that are dedicated to the humanitarian, social, cultural and environmental issues, representing the best ideas, ideals, achievements, skills and solutions that inspire and incite us all to evolve towards higher and greater deeds. Then we have the Grace Media True News Network. This is a nationwide network of independent journalists that conduct live broadcasting and investigative reporting on the local events of their towns and villages, highlighting pertinent issues and problems that need solving. We shall provide a platform of awareness for individuals and organizations that make real and positive contributions to their local communities, so that we highlight and be inspired by real heroes that make a positive difference to our lives. The True News Network will make people more aware of the operations and developments of their local community and empower them to participate in positive reformation. The Grace Media will, of course, have a worldwide web presence, a main website, and online footprint on all of the social media channels to cultivate awareness, interest, and support in our projects, providing media related updates and with access to various online community based platforms for like minded souls to interact, meet in person, and grow together in actual factual knowledge. As part of our growing community, we will have the Grace Media communication platforms because good communication is the key to cultivate genuine and honourable relationships. Grace Media will be focused on providing private communication platforms for both personal and business use, where people connect to build networks based upon the principles of authenticity, responsibility, productivity, and mutual benefit. We are also launching the Grace magazine, which is a magazine for life. This is a world leading publication that focuses on health, wealth, and sovereignty, providing uplifting and problem solving content and promoting the various projects, movements, and services of the world's most creative and innovative individuals and organizations, with information that will give us the strategies to greatly enhance and exalt our lives. The Grace magazine will also incorporate the Grace Prize. The Grace Prize is an accolade that is awarded to the men, women, and the young ones of our earth that are using their creative ingenuity to inspire and gift humanity with innovative solutions for the betterment of all life on earth, including the earth itself. We are also pleased to announce the Grace University. The Grace University is a network of land-based and online universities that provide a comprehensive, holistic, and syncretic education for life. Students will master the principles of nature, the biopsychological powers of the human avatar, and the laws and operations of culture. Students will develop character, talent, and skills that aligns with their true nature and life purpose. So they are equipped to create a life and legacy that expresses their divine and intuitive will, where our university will facilitate a generation of noble and upright beings that live great lives and do great achievements in this world. And so now that I have finished outlining the individual initiatives of Grace Media, I do hereby assert the goodwill and intent of the Grace Society to manifest Grace Media as described in all of its aforementioned aims and objectives, and therefore we will ensure that it is done. Grace Media will be a universal platform that connects the men, women, sons, and daughters of this earth that have a calling, a knowing that they were born to learn knowledge and skills that will assist them to participate in the creation of a new earth paradigm. That within their heart of hearts, they know that they are here to be a significant part of a unified planetary force of positive change that seeks peace and prosperity for all life. And so, as within all my presentations, I will now give you an open invitation to join us to become a significant part of the Grace Society. I also encourage you to look into the other key humanitarian and environmental projects that we are working on, which are projects that honour and exalts life. Because the mission of the Grace Society is to form an alliance with good people, with pure hearts, with a love for life and a passion for all of life, so that together we can all create a new earth paradigm. And we will, because this is our will. And so now I thank you. I thank you for being a part of this presentation. And should you feel inspired to know more, or indeed join the Grace Media Project and become a member of the Grace Society, then it would be a privilege and honour to meet with you and to discuss how we can both do more and do better together. Until then, my best wishes to you and yours.